Hello, coming up on the programme today. After skeletal remains of a man were found by campers in North Wales, can you help identify him?
And do you recognise this man? He's wanted in connection with the distribution of Class A drugs. He's been on the run since 2021.
And how a beauty queen turned detective to identify the UK's most prolific catfisher. It is literally like the plot from a Hollywood film.
Yeah, it really is. Stay watching. This is CrimeWatch Live.
Has been jamming the switchboard both here and at the incident room on that case of Welling Garden.
To remind you, this was the abduction and radio drop campaign and the handgun debate. Hello and welcome to CrimeWatch. 12 people rang in giving the same... Those fantastic results.
Hello and welcome to what is our last show for this series. Over these last 3 weeks, we have brought you dozens of appeals and wanted faces from police forces across the country.
Yeah, we've shared loads of exclusive films from the UK's biggest solved cases, and over 4 million of you have watched our clips on the official Facebook page. And thank you to those as well who've provided some interesting leads from those too.
This morning, how a trusted friend turned bookkeeper swindled an elderly couple out of nearly £1 million.
Within the space of a year, all the money was all transferred, leaving them penniless so they can't pay for their care.
And we'll be hearing how this gorgeous furry fella helps firefighters deal with the trauma of their job.
Behind the scenes in our HQ, our team are ready to take your calls.
Yes, you can scan our QR code to get all of our details. Call us on 08000 468 999. You can text us 63399. Just start your message with the word crime, leave a space and then write your text. Email us cwl@bbc.co.uk and those details are on the screen throughout the show.
But first this morning, the discovery of human remains near a campsite in North Wales led to a murder investigation that is still puzzling detectives 10 years later.
At 20:43 hours on the 14th of November 2015, North Wales Police received a call to report the discovery of what they believed to be human remains.
Two brothers were visiting Clocaenog Forest, a huge area of woodland in North Wales, to watch the Wales Rally GB.
In the evening, they were camping, and one of the brothers went off to look for firewood, and in doing so discovered what they believed to be a human skeleton. Clocaenog Forest is well known. It's near to Llyn Brenig, which is a very popular lake for walkers, dog walkers and outdoor sports enthusiasts and alike. There is a patch between a main road and the forestry track. So the brothers were camping a little bit further up from where the skeleton was recovered. And I would say in relation to the forestry track that the skeleton was maybe 10-15 metres away from that track. The particular area is not an area that I would expect people to have frequented because of the dense undergrowth and the fact that it isn't very easy to walk through. As you can imagine, receiving a call like that was very uncommon. North Wales Police forensics teams identified that the skull did appear to be a human skull. A CSI team has started with archaeologists excavating the area.
The discovery sparked a huge forensic police dig, which unearthed the near-complete human skeletal remains.
The scene itself was particularly challenging. The crime scene investigators had to cut away the undergrowth, and they've taken a layered approach. So not only have they done the undergrowth, they've taken away the soil, and it's been a painstaking process that's taken place over a number of days. When we're examining that scene, not only are we looking to recover as much human remains as possible, we're also looking for forensics clues that'll help us identify who that human remains belongs to. An experienced pathologist has had a look at the skull and has been able to say that there was inflicted trauma to the head, which has left us clear that this was a murder investigation.
Confirmed as a murder, detectives began working on identifying the victim.
We've been able to say that this person must have been born before 1950. We know through examination that the skeletal remains belong to a male. We believe that the male was of heavy build. We believe that he was between 5'8" tall and 5'10.5" tall. From examining the spine, we know that this male had arthritis. He would have suffered with back pain. That back pain may not have been disclosed to family or friends or loved ones.
Detectives called in a forensic odontologist, Dr. John Rosie, for help.
His premolar teeth have got some very extensive crown work, root canal work and filling work, which is of a high quality. Now, the style of the dentistry is typical of dentistry that was done in the 90s, 2000, possibly late 80s.
The teeth are particularly important to us in this investigation, and we are told that if you were that dentist performing that procedure, you are likely to recognise your own work, which would hopefully enable us to identify who this person is.
Detectives used a facial reconstruction expert to depict what the Clocaenog Forest man may have looked like.
They've given us 3 different date ranges, what they would look like in their 50s, 60s and 70s. So this is a useful guide to have this facial reconstruction, but what I would say is this is a depiction of what that person might look like. It's only a guide.
But despite detectives' best efforts, a decade later, and the identity of the man and what happened to him is still unknown.
We've previously disclosed that the date range that we were looking for is between 1995 and 2005. However, through working with many different experts, we've been able to overlay all their expertise, and now we firmly believe that that male would have been left at that location between the years 2004 and 2011. Because of the delay in the time where we believe that that body was left and the time that we got notified, we don't have the benefits of a traditional crime scene. We're now 10.5 years on and we're still no closer to identifying who that victim is. It's vitally important that we identify who this person is, who does this loved one belong to, and from then we can start other lines of inquiry to identify how he's come about his demise and who was responsible.
And I'm now with Detective Superintendent Chris Bell from North Wales Police, you saw from the film there. Chris, remind us why you are treating this as a murder investigation.
Good morning, Ralph, thank you. So we're treating this as a murder investigation because back in November 2015, 2 witnesses discovered almost a full human skeletal remains in a forest.
Well, let's have a look at the area itself where it was discovered. This is the map here. Just talk us through what that area would look like.
The brothers who discovered it were looking for firewood for camping. We've got a main road coming along here, and then you've got a forestry track. So this is less well trodden. This is fairly well popular route.
What have you managed to work out about the individual?
So we believe from all the experts that he was Caucasian, that he was born between 1950s, and that's based on carbon dating. We also believe that he was between 5'8" and 5'10.5", that he was heavy build, and we also believe that he would have had arthritis in his spine. So he would have known that he was uncomfortable. Maybe his friends might not have known, he might not have mentioned it to anybody, but that might have been a feature that somebody remembers. And
we can see here, you've got 3 different images that experts have created, but 3 different age profiles of what he may possibly have looked like.
On the left, we've got him as if he was in his 50s, then his 60s, then his 70s. Obviously, we've only got the skeletal remains, so this is a expert's interpretation, depiction of what he would look like. I'd like to stress that if the other things that I've mentioned, his height, his age, if they resonate with people and they think they may know who it is, but he doesn't necessarily look like this, please don't use that as a reason not to contact us. We want to hear from everybody. If they think that somebody's gone missing between 2004, 2011, anybody's friends, anybody's loved ones, please call us. I'd also like to stress, if I may, that we're looking for the victim, and this is not the suspect or the offender.
Yeah, very important to make that. And we heard from the film then, you've touched on it already, but the dental work, that is a vital lead for you, isn't it? And it could really help this investigation.
Yeah, correct. So we believe that he's had missing back teeth in his younger years, and some of the dentist work that you can see here now, he's had some crown work to a high quality. That work was seen in the late 80s, 90s through to the early 2000s, and we firmly believe that if you were the dentist, you would recognise your work. It's quite unique. So if there's any dentists watching this, I would encourage you, please contact us if you recognise your work.
Yeah, and also some clothing was found at the time. It was in a state of disrepair because it had been disintegrated over many, many years, but you've managed to piece together what it would have looked like.
So we've worked with Pringle. They've been able to tell us that this jumper was an exact copy of what we found. They stopped manufacturing this in 2004, so it must have been worn by somebody or purchased by them prior to 2004. We also found some underwear. That was Marks and Spencer's underwear, and from the label we were able to say that it was a large size, again indicative of what the experts are saying, that our mail would have been a heavier set mail.
So today, who do you want to hear from?
We want to hear from friends, family, anybody who's got an idea, neighbours, loved ones, anybody who went missing between 2004 and 2011 that you think it could be him.
But it is a murder investigation. If anyone has information about the murder itself, there is a Crime Stoppers reward.
Of course there is, yeah. There's a £20,000 Crime Stoppers reward. I'd like to emphasise that if anybody's got any information that can help us lead to identifying the offender, which results in a conviction, then you will be eligible for that £20,000 reward.
Chris, thank you. If you have any information that can lead to an ID of this man, please do call. The contact details are on the screen now.
We're going to talk now about Scotland's most prolific catfisher. So this is a woman who posed as a male doctor and then deceived over 100 women. It's an extraordinary story. It's actually on iPlayer now, so you can watch the documentary, but let's have a quick look at it.
Time went so fast and I didn't sleep. Like, I was sitting on my phone looking for things and my laptop, and it was like before I knew it we were on to like 5, 6 in the morning, and then I'd have a quick sleep and then I'd wake back up again. Like, I was consumed by it all.
It's well worth a watch. We're joined now by criminologist Dr. Elizabeth Carter and also Abby Draper, who you saw there in the documentary. Thanks so much for coming in to talk about this. It is an extraordinary case. It's one, Abby, you had experience with. So first of all, can you just explain what is a catfisher for those who don't know, and how did it happen to you?
Yeah, so catfishing is basically a tool that someone will use to deceive other people, and by doing that they use other people's pictures and they could change their name basically to create this online profile. My granddad had been taken into hospital in 2014, and whilst I was visiting him back and forth, I was actually receiving messages by someone online called David Graham, and through a few conversations David Graham had suggested that he was my granddad's physio and actually worked in the hospital that he was in. And yeah, from there it just kind of spiraled.
Yes.
So the interaction with you and this male medical expert that was messaging you started off quite normal, quite innocent, and when did you realise something wasn't quite right with what was going on?
Well, David had then uploaded this beautiful flyer of having an NHS charity ball, and he was looking for entertainers. At the time I was dancing, so I had actually messaged him and said, oh, I would love to get involved in this. I then reshared the poster, and from there others had said, oh, how do you know David Graham? Because I also know David Graham. And then we kind of started to figure out that this person could possibly not be real. We then created a group called 007, And
Great name.
Yep. And then from there, we gathered more evidence to suggest this David Graham wasn't actually who he said he was.
Yeah. So David Graham was actually a woman called Adele.
Yeah.
Who was actually a nurse in the hospital, so not a doctor looking after your granddad, a nurse. And Dr. Carter, can I just bring you in at this point? Why do people do this? Because this wasn't financially motivated.
No, this is quite an extraordinary story. Although it's not financially motivated, it still is reward driven. It's all about the emotional reward that you get from it. So you get the love and attention, but also the psychological need, you get the power and the control and the influence. And also you have this more experience-based reward. So it's all about the thrill of getting away with it, particularly where there's this in-person element as well. Endorsement saying, you know, I'm a doctor, you know, all that credibility you get from that. So it's really designed to influence individuals on that personal level.
Yeah.
So we've seen many cases where scammers will pretend to be someone else in order to get money out of someone, for example. But this is slightly different, but it's still incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Why?
It's extraordinarily dangerous, and in this case and in many others like it, although it's quite rare, it does follow this pattern of escalation. So we see, you know, the love bombing to start with, you know, pretending to be somebody else, but then we move into stalking, online deception, and then also sexual coercion as well. This is an incredibly dangerous escalation, and it continues. It's all about power and control.
And what's incredible about this is how sophisticated it was, because there might be people at home going, well, hang on, how did you not realise it was a woman? But she was using a voice app to change her voice into a male voice, wasn't she? And there's so many women connected to this, which you found out through your group and took to the police.
Yeah, and I think as well, Adele was very good at manipulating people as herself. So she was also given the credibility that David Graham was real by saying that David was her cousin, or she knew David, and almost validating to people that David was real.
Yeah, it's worth explaining that to people.
Yeah.
So Adele, separately to this persona she created of David, was then also messaging you, was meeting some of the women and saying, oh, David's really lovely, I know him. And
backing up the story that she'd created.
And Adele just looks like a very normal woman, could be one of your mates.
Yeah,
so
you
that
would
was
believe
what,
her.
yeah, so you totally believed her and you
Yeah.
could see how that would then happen. But you took it to the police, and then what happened?
Took it to the police, and then after a few years, I had more victims came forward, so we were building a big case here, and eventually in 2017 she was put in prison and she was charged, and yeah, then it kind of escalated from there as well.
And some heavy charges as well. So we've got stalking, as you said, Dr. Carter, stalking, deception and sexual coercion were the charges. She was actually put in prison. So was that the end of it?
No, unfortunately it wasn't. She has came out a few times now. We're now on the fourth time she's been put in prison. Every time she comes out, she actually does reoffend, and she reoffends to previous victims and also new victims, and things do escalate even more and they do get worse.
Yeah, that's the thing here, is it's that escalation, as you mentioned, Doctor, and that's really scary for people, how bad it got. And I imagine people a lot felt shame, didn't want to talk about it.
It's all designed to make you feel ashamed, like you've done something wrong, like you're trying to tarnish the reputation of the person who's actually attacking you. And the speed of reoffending is incredibly important, as well as the escalation. And we find in this case that victims that have pushed back have got this incredible, you know, anger towards them, aggression, and then physical threats as well.
But in this case, there was some of the women involved thought they were talking to a man, they were exchanging explicit images because they thought they'd struck up a relationship with someone, which of course they had not. Psychologically, there's a big impact that something like this could have on so many people.
Huge. Well, you feel incredibly vulnerable. You're at your most vulnerable state. You've exchanged intimate messages, images, but these are all coerced out of you. In any other situation, you would definitely have said no. So that feeling that you've been used and abused is very real.
Yeah.
Even though there's no financial harm, the psychological harm is incredibly devastating.
And what amazed me in this story as well, and I mean, Abby, you play an incredible role in it, Detective Draper, pretty much throughout, but she turned on you at one point to make you look like you were the person doing something wrong, didn't she?
Yeah, on the third occasion, I had spoke to Adele on the phone, and she was even heavily manipulating me as herself to make me feel like I had got this wrong all these years and it wasn't her, and I wanted to create this full thing and this was all on me. And I actually did sit back at one point and thought, have I created this full drama and she doesn't deserve to be in prison and this is all on me?
Classic gaslighting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Trying to
it did
flip
work.
it the other way.
It worked for a little bit because I did feel like, oh gosh. But then I was like, actually, no. Like, this is you.
Well done as well for doing that. It's incredible, the story. I mean, it's well worth a watch.
Yeah, it really is. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us, you two. And I'll tell you what, stick around for the rest of the day. I think we could use these two with some of our appeals.
I know. We could actually.
These two together would solve plenty.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much.
Now, talking of abuse of trust, how a friend of an elderly couple offered to be their bookkeeper and ended up stealing nearly £1 million from them.
Within the space of a year, all the money was all transferred, leaving them penniless so they can't pay for their care.
£18,000 goes into your account. The next day, £9,500 goes to your account.
It's a crazy amount of money. She has taken advantage of them when they are at their most vulnerable.
In September 2023, Detective Sergeant Katie Lewis from the Thames Valley Police Fraud Unit received a call from a bank. They were concerned that a large sum of money had been moved out of an elderly customer's account.
That was sufficient for us to request a safeguarding visit. So an officer went to the house where the victim was believed to live, but we identified that she had been in care for the last 4 years.
To protect the identities of the two elderly victims, we have changed their names to Catherine and James.
We spoke to Catherine's care home. They informed us that she did have a husband called James, but he was in a separate care home a bit further away.
Police found out the couple used a woman called Susan Bruland to help them with their finances.
Susan was a bookkeeper and really was a close and trusted friend of Catherine and James. Susan obtained power of attorney for James back in 2017, and in 2018 she obtained it for Catherine.
A power of attorney gives a person the legal authority to make health, welfare and financial decisions on behalf of someone else. Police could see Susan had been withdrawing regular sums of money from Catherine's account.
The intel itself raised concerns and flags for me, but we need to ascertain if we think it is a criminal offence. So the biggest inquiry was with the banks, and it showed quite a complicated money trail, that money was moved between different accounts. So we had to work out where the money had gone and what it had been used for.
In 2019, James and Catherine had both moved into care homes.
The fees are quite high. So Susan sold the house on their behalf, which is in keeping with being the power of attorney and is quite normal practice.
The money from that sale was divided by Susan Bruland into two accounts, £300,000 for Catherine and the same for James. The aim was to pay for their care.
For the first few years, all the finances were in order. There was nothing untoward. She was paying the care home fees and everything was as you'd expect.
But then in August 2022, two lots of £19,000 was transferred to Susan, titled toiletries.
I think anyone would look at that and think £40,000 is a considerable amount of money to be spending on toiletries when somebody's in a care home.
A month later, it happened again, and another £18,000 was transferred.
It really changed from about January 2023. Lots of round amounts every month, on average about £20,000 at a time. Susan made it a little bit more complicated by moving money between accounts, so even between James and Catherine themselves, potentially in a bid to avoid any concerns from the banks.
In fact, Susan transferred over £550,000 into her own business accounts. She then went on to liquidate the couple's investments.
Within the space of a year, all the money that James and Catherine had, which was substantial, was all transferred from their bank accounts, leaving almost nothing.
On the 17th of January 2024, she was arrested at her home.
Susan Bruland, Thames Valley Police. Can we come in, please? We've got a warrant from the court for your arrest and to search the house. So at this point, 6:01, I'm arresting you on suspicion of fraud and money laundering. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something that you will later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, OK?
She lived on her own in a rented property, but there was absolutely nothing to suggest she had used that money to buy herself anything high value.
On the 28th, £18,000 goes into your account. The next day, £9,500 goes to your account. Following day, £22,000 goes to your account, and so on and so on.
She claimed she had an agreement to pay off her loans and debts by borrowing this money.
Was there any terms as to what the money was to be used for?
It was to help me get through and get the pub up and running, get me to follow my dreams.
And that's what she agreed to, yeah? OK.
Catherine just wouldn't agree for it to all be taken. It's a crazy amount of money. We know around that time Susan had personal problems, the issues with her business, and she has used all her money to help herself, leaving them penniless so they can't pay for their care.
I need to sort it out. I'm trying to sort it out. I'm trying to get everything on an even keel.
She told police she had bought £150,000 worth of cryptocurrency, but that she had been defrauded and was trying to get it back.
I'm surprised, knowing her background and her profession, that she allowed it to happen, but she didn't want to, I think, see the reality of the problem.
Would you care to venture a guess as to how much money you've taken?
I don't know.
That was in excess of £900,000.
Well,
I expected more remorse, I'll be honest. There was never any point when she said, "I'm really sorry, I can't believe I let this happen," but those words didn't come. She has taken advantage of them when they are at their most vulnerable.
Having taken over £900,000 of her friend's money, Susan Brulin was sentenced to 5 years in prison for 2 counts of fraud by abuse of position.
Sadly, Catherine passed away a few weeks after we started the investigation. James is still alive, he's in care. But I'm really glad that they have no idea that this happened. I would hate to think of the emotional impact it would have on them, knowing that someone who is really close to them has abused their trust.
Exactly that, a massive abuse of trust and a huge amount of money, but I'm glad the detectives got a result there. Now, I'm joined by Detective Sergeant Maria Isom from the South East Regional Organised Crime Unit, who's urgently looking for the whereabouts of this man, Charlie Salisbury. Maria, what can you tell us about this man that you're after?
Yes, Ralph. This is Charlie Salisbury. He is wanted by us for offences of conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and associated money laundering offences. We last spoke to Charlie on the 18th of May 2021. We went to his home address in Bicester, which is in Thames Valley, and we conducted a search warrant there. Unfortunately, Charlie was not present. He did call us up, though, and he said he would hand himself in. Unfortunately, he never did, and we haven't spoken to him since.
So that's 5 years,
Yeah.
almost, exactly. OK, let's try and find him. What does he look like? Give us a description if you can.
Yeah, so Charlie is 34 now. He's about 5'7". He previously had either cropped hair, you can see in this picture, or slightly longer hair. He does have some very distinctive tattoos. So he has a tattoo of a koi carp and also a dragon.
Charlie... Yeah, see a large one on his calf there, can't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah.
another sleeve on his arm, yeah.
Charlie grew up in the Hayes and Hillingdon area, so North London. But as I said, he was actually living in Bicester at the time that we did the search warrant. We know that Charlie is an avid Queen's Park Rangers football fan. OK, so good clues if anyone thinks they know where he might be. He was actually part of a wider gang, wasn't he? Yeah. That have been arrested. Yeah, that's correct. So this was actually part of a much wider nationwide investigation called Operation Venetic. So Operation Venetic involved organised crime groups across Europe accessing a highly secretive and encrypted messaging service. In early 2020, law enforcement actually were able to get into that messaging service. And Charlie was using that, and he was using a false name. We call it handle name. His was Amused Penguin.
Okay.
And when we looked through the messages, we could see that Charlie was playing a really big, significant role in an organised crime group, moving large quantities of cocaine at that time that we were looking into those offences.
Well, it's a huge job, and I know that some have been sentenced already.
Yes, that's correct. So it was actually, he was part of a bigger group of 6 individuals. All of those people have now been convicted, either found guilty or found guilty at trial. The combined total sentencing is about 30 years. 2 of those defendants were found guilty of money laundering offences, and one of those was Charlie's ex-partner, who he has 2 young children with at the time.
So it's 5 years, a long time to be on the run.
Yeah.
Where do you think he could be now? Who are you really appealing to?
Yeah, so I think he's probably been supported by wider associates in the criminal network. We think it's possible that Charlie left the UK and is possibly in southern Spain. So our appeal today is really to those people that might recognise Charlie that can come forward. But more importantly, we are trying to appeal to Charlie himself. He has, as I said, 2 young children here. It's fair to say that the other defendants that have been convicted are now on probation. So had Charlie...
So that's interesting. So when you spoke to him last 5 years ago, he said he was coming into the police station. He didn't turn up.
Yeah.
Those that were dealt with then have done their time and come out.
Exactly, yeah. So had Charlie done what he said he was going to do, he'd probably be out spending time with his children right now. So it's really important that he just gets in contact with us and we can make those necessary arrangements.
Maria, thank you. Well, let's try and make that happen. If you know this man, if you know where he might be, remember it's Charlie Salisbury. Charlie, if you're watching yourself, get in touch. We want to hear from you. We made it easy. The number's at the bottom of the screen. Give us a call, tell us where you are, and we can make the necessary arrangements. But if you can help locate him, do get in touch.
Yes, please do. Now, how a charity pay tribute to those officers who have fallen in the line of duty.
Every day, police officers up and down the country put on their uniform and put themselves in dangerous situations or at harm's way. Most often, they come back home and go back to their loved ones. On small occasions, some officers don't make it, and what they leave behind is shattered lives of families and loved ones that don't see them come back home. I'm Vinny Waggiani. I'm a detective inspector at Kent Police, and I've been a police officer for 20+ years. In the early years of my career, I really felt the vulnerabilities. I never knew if someone was going to pull out a knife and stab me. When I do have conversations with my wife, she feels the fear when I leave the front door. In 2011, we lost a police officer who was killed. A colleague of mine felt he had to do something to raise some money for the 2 children that were left behind. His vision was to get groups of people to climb mountains, and when they got to the top of the mountain, they would light lanterns to remember the fallen officer. That's where Light the Lakes was born. On an event day, people will gather, they'll start getting ready with their hiking boots and start making the steady paces to scale the mountains that they're going to climb. During the journey of the mountain climbing, there'll be laughs, there'll be tears, and as we get to the top, there's a sigh of relief that we've got there. The feeling is hard to explain when you get a moment of silence, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, you start seeing lights lighting up from each peak to each peak. And it's that moment where people feel connected. And every year, when I light the flare, I have that same feeling of goosebumps, that peacefulness and that moment of reflection where you're just remembering police officers that have died. There'll be a moment where I will roll call all the police officers that have died during that year from duty. Daniel Golding from Metropolitan Police. Daniel Gower from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary. Richard Kemp from Lancashire Constabulary. Steve Creel from Sussex Police. Bruce Lister from Hertfordshire Constabulary. The event provides an opportunity for quite a lot of people where losing a loved one is still raw. And the journey to the top of the mountain gives them a sense of peace. We partnered with a charity who support the family of fallen officers. And we've seen the numbers of participants grow as the event's grown year by year. Like the Lakes gives people an opportunity to connect, and as part of that connection, we're able to remember our fallen officers together. And it's that togetherness that allows us to create stronger healing powers.
Such an important cause, isn't it? And I'm delighted to say they have now raised over £200,000 through those walks, which is brilliant, so well done. Now in the studio, we have some very special guests with us. Lucy MacLeod is the Borough Commander for Hammersmith and Fulham for the London Fire Brigade, and she's brought with her the beautiful well-being dog, Blue. Lovely to see you both. Thank you for coming in. Loads to chat to you about Blue, but first of all, tell us a bit about you, because I mean, I can't believe the figures on how many women there are as firefighters. It's only 8%, isn't it? You're one of them. You've done really well. You're, one of the most senior. What was your journey?
So I joined late. I didn't think it was a job for me because it was never put out there. I joined at 29. I started as non-operational, became operational. And that's almost 17 years ago. And I'm trying to influence, women to join the service. It's really important. We're lucky in London where we've got slightly more than 8%, 10%, but still it's not really enough. And one of the ways that I'm hoping to do that is by...
you've got a book?
Yes.
Of you and Blue?
A book, yeah. So what I realised was there's no real representation in children's books with women firefighters.
So true.
So I'm hopeful that will help.
Yes, and you've got a really senior job, haven't you, as well? So tell us a bit, did you face many barriers getting to the top?
I think it's really difficult because I don't look like a firefighter. So generally every day I'll get there are barriers with the public. But if you were to put a firefighter into AI, you're not going to get a picture of me back. So I think...
So true.
Yeah, so that's a barrier in itself. So having people out there as role models so that people can look and go, oh yeah, he loves you. He's coming over to give you some love, so that people can aspire to it. And if you can see it, you can be it, you can believe it, can't you?
Yes.
And that's what's really important.
It's so key, as you say. So tell us about Blue then. What's Blue's job?
So Blue is a trauma and wellbeing dog. He qualified as an OK9 dog in 2024, and he comes with me to have difficult conversations about mental health. So we go to the fire stations and, my uniform can be a barrier. So he acts as a bit of a buffer and a bridge. He'll come in, just like he did with you.
Yeah.
And positive interactions with dogs are proven to lower your cortisol and up your feel-good hormones like serotonin and oxytocin.
Yeah. So
then you might open up and speak about...
other things. Yeah, because when you came into the studio, literally everyone was round you. It was like you had cakes or something. They're the only occasions everyone will come to you like that. But
it's all him.
That, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what you're getting with firefighters who are maybe struggling with what's going on with work, having to do really tough stuff.
Absolutely that, yeah. And it's about then me being able to have that conversation to signpost them to places that they can get help. And it's really positive. People do that because they've opened up and Blue's allowed that conversation to happen. So really important stuff.
Yeah, because the reaction you've had has been quite incredible, hasn't it?
Yeah, and we've got 10 dogs in London, and we've got all shapes and sizes. Because he's very unusual looking and has the bright blue eyes as well.
Eyes.
Yeah, people get drawn to him. And even, the older, sort of longer in the tooth firefighters, once you start talking to them, they can, they've gone and got their own help. So that's great for us because we keep them in service then. It's
Yeah.
really important.
Yes, because I know some people might be a bit like, oh, you know, that a dog's not going to make a difference, and think it's all a bit woo-woo, and you've proven it isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's loads of other dogs working with the OK9 network as well, with the police and the ambulance, doing some really good stuff. So
yeah. So I know I keep saying we should get a studio dog.
I think
it just calms everyone down, doesn't it? But you've done so well for yourself because you've won a big award as well, haven't you? As the most influential woman in firefighting. What did that feel like?
Yeah, that was in December, and I was really grateful to get shortlisted in the first instance. There was a great group of people that I was up against, and when they read out my name, I was like, oh my goodness, that's me. I need to get up and get that award. I was a little bit embarrassed because it's about some of the work that Blue and I do. It's about the way I lead. It's a number of different things, but actually, you know, it's a great platform to be able to help more people.
Yeah.
I'm the only woman national tactical advisor in urban search and rescue in the country. I'm the only fellow of the Institute of Search and Technical Rescue as a woman, and I think there's so much more to do. So it gives me a real platform to be able to do that.
So what would you say then to anyone watching this who might think, oh, hang on, maybe this is for me? What would you say to them?
Come down to a fire station. If you're in London, you're more than welcome to drop me a line, come and have a look, see how a fire station works. Do that. We've got some great outreach programmes that you can go and have a look. Actually, most fire services up and down the country do. Go and have a look, see if it's for you. And if you're into sports and fitness and a different thing every day, then this could be
it's for you. Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Blue. I know Rav will be jealous not to be here with us. Rav.
Yes, I am very jealous, but I am hearing really good calls coming in about those human remains that were found in North Wales, so please do keep those coming. Now, for the last time this series, we have got Wanted Faces. First, we have Kyle Campbell, who also uses the surname Manners. South Yorkshire Police are looking for the 25-year-old after he failed to appear at court following being charged with GBH with intent. His average build and height with a northern accent and links to Doncaster, though recent intelligence suggests he could be in the new Rossington area of the city. Next, Shiwan Hassan, but he also goes by Shawan and Saban. He's also been recalled to prison. He's now at large. He's 42, has links to Midlands and also South Yorkshire. And last, for today in the series, South Wales Police want your help to find Hakeem Sarvast. Police want to speak to him about a stabbing which took place in a kebab shop in Cardiff in January this year. It left a man with serious injuries. So if you know where any of these three men are, do get in touch. And I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today in the series. Thank you for watching over the last 3 weeks and for all those calls. Remember, you can catch us on iPlayer for the next 30 days.
Yes, you can also watch our sister series, CrimeWatch Court. That's going to be on from Monday at 10:45. Here's a little taster for you.
Hello, police emergency.
We'll work around the clock if it means putting criminals behind bars.
It only takes that one mistake for us to catch you.
Crime doesn't pay. You will be caught.
Oh, it looks good.
Some cracking stories and that. So we'll be back in autumn. Until then, take care.
Yeah, bye-bye for now. See ya.